Drama queen thinks losing her cat is worse than me losing my actual baby. My partner and I have a child, and have been trying for another for about a year now. We've lost 3 pregnancies, all in the first trimester, with the most recent about 7 weeks into the pregnancy. One of my very good friends, Shelley, is a total cat mom, and refers to her cats as her babies, which I've never had a problem with, until recently. She has some health issues that mean it's unlikely she'll be able to have children, something she's always wanted, and the cats, along with a bunch of honorary nibblings, help fill that need. The issue came up recently because she just lost one of her cats quite suddenly. She'd had the cat since he was a kitten. He was 16 when he passed away, which is a good run for a cat, but I agree with her that it's never long enough. She's devastated, and has really been struggling with the loss and trying to adjust to the change. She still has 2 cats, but this was her first baby that was all hers as an adult. This is where I might be the jerk. I lost my most recent pregnancy about 2 weeks before she lost her cat, and of course, I've been devastated. Our mutual friends have been very supportive to both of us, as they were with our previous losses, but I really feel like Shelley is making a bigger deal than necessary about the loss of her cat, and is kind of dragging things out. She'll tear up or start crying out of nowhere, and even though she doesn't make a big deal of it, and will even go out of the room for a few minutes, we all still know what's going on. I asked her the other day when she was wiping her eyes while we were all talking if she had talked about what was going on with her therapist, because it seems like after almost a month she should be moving on already. She just sort of stared at me for a minute before asking what I meant by that. I told her that I knew Tiger was special to her, but he was just a cat. It wasn't like she had lost a baby, an actual human, and it felt like she was just drawing things out and should start moving on. She started to cry more forcefully, and one of our friends wrapped her arm around her and said that I was just working through my own grief too. She said we all miss Tiger and know how hard this has been. I said she was right, I did miss Tiger too, but that I was still grieving my most recent miscarriage, the loss of a real baby, and I wasn't carrying on like she was. I got a bit of a dirty look from our friend who was comforting Shelley, and from 1 or 2 of the others, and they got up and left to get a drink and calm down. After they left, one of my friends said I was cruel and a jerk, because we know how much she loved Tiger and how important he was to her. Not to mention she had him for 16.5 years, and I only knew about the pregnancy for 3 weeks. They also said if I wasn't able to handle things right now, maybe we should stop trying for a little bit. Am I the jerk? There are actually a couple of jerks here, and the original poster is definitely one of them. That said, I don't think she was trying to be a jerk. When we're struggling to hold it together, it can be frustrating to watch someone else wear their emotions on their sleeve. It sounds like OP was going through something similar. That doesn't make it okay to compare grief the way she did, but it's at least understandable. Where she really went wrong was doubling down on what she said after her friend offered an escape by saying that they were each just working through their own grief. That would have been a good time to drop it, and she didn't. But the friend who called her out on it is a bit of a jerk too. If you're going to tell someone not to compare grief, don't follow it up by saying the loss of their pregnancy means less because they only knew about it for 3 weeks. She's been trying for a year, and this is the 3rd failure. She isn't grieving one loss, she's grieving a year of losses, and she's probably dealing with a bit of self-doubt as well. And I sort of get where her friend was coming from when she said to stop trying for a bit, but to a person dealing with self-doubt, that sounds like telling a person to just give up. So this friend isn't really much more sensitive than OP. With so many friends who don't know how to talk to people with basic compassion, it's no wonder Shelley prefers spending her time with cats. Child-hating tiger mom treats my homeschooled nephews like they're in a labor camp. I'm a 24-year-old male and the youngest of 5 kids. My 34-year-old sister Betty has 2 kids, Jason is 15 and Todd is 13. My girlfriend Cassie is 25 and the oldest in her family by a lot. My sister moved states, and the homeschooling requirements were different, so my nephews weren't as caught up as they should have been. There was a lot of drama, and CPS threatened to take them if they weren't caught up. Betty homeschooled them their whole life, just like our parents did, but the new state has a lot of requirements that my nephews weren't told about. Cassie said she would help them get caught up. She's a literal genius. She's also a really mean teacher. Like, she makes my nephews do a lot of math, reading, and science from worksheets and books. She only lets them take a 5-minute break every 20 minutes. She told me this. She makes them learn the material until they know it, but it's not enough just to have the right answer. Cassie makes them tell her why it's right and what they did to solve the problem. She also makes them exercise, which isn't even a part of the homeschooling requirements. My nephews are miserable. I told Cassie she should stop. She told me that school isn't fun all the time. It was meant to learn and give skills for people to survive. She said that CPS should take away Betty's kids if she went back to homeschooling them, because it was basically mistreatment. Cassie said that my nephews were way behind in everything, and they couldn't read or do math. She said they didn't know stuff like algebra, which nobody really needs unless they're an engineer. It's better for them to learn how to do taxes, or something more useful than what schools teach. I told her that I turned out fine even though I was homeschooled. Cassie gave me a nasty look and said it's obvious I didn't. I told her she was acting like a tiger mom, and she was practically mistreating the kids. She was very offended and said she wouldn't stop teaching my nephews because somebody had to be an adult and be there for them. But I am. I'm trying to stop her from ruining their school experience and making them miserable. Her friends texted me and called me a jerk because she didn't have to help me, but she did. Betty thinks I did nothing wrong and that Cassie was insulting her. Am I the jerk for calling my girlfriend a tiger mom because of how she tutored my nephews? I honestly don't know if you're the jerk. I don't know if you're smart enough to be malicious. The viewers at home won't be able to appreciate this, but I'm the one that had to sift through your grammar and spelling to try and make this story halfway legible. If Betty was teaching her kids as well as this original poster's mom taught him, then CPS might have had the right idea. This story really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If Betty felt insulted, she could have easily taken things over and sent Cassie home. Literally everything Cassie did was in line with traditional schooling, except for the 5-minute breaks. That's a common time management technique that's been proven to boost productivity. So not only is Cassie teaching these kids to be smarter than OP, which frankly isn't hard to do, but she's also giving them the skills to become effective workers. I only hope Cassie doesn't plan on using these same methods with OP's kids, because honestly, anyone with half a brain should be finding someone smarter to breed with. This OP is way too old to hate school this much. Grow up already. Narcissistic brother wants to cheat on his wife at their daughter's birthday party. My brother Paul and I are not close at all. We have very different worldviews and have incompatible personalities. I can tolerate him, but I would never consider him a friend. He's been married to Lisa for 1 or 2 years now, and they have a beautiful daughter together. My girlfriend Amy and I were invited to celebrate my niece's first birthday. Most of the family was invited, and it would be the first time I would have seen them all together. I only see my family once or twice a year, with a few exceptions. Amy and I arrived a little earlier than we were supposed to, so instead of waiting in the car, we decided to go in. The first thing I noticed is how calm my brother seemed to be, in contrast to Lisa, who was frantically running up and down. When he saw Amy, he immediately handed the baby over to her and got a beer to sit down and watch TV. Lisa was clearly struggling, and he was content with a beer and Netflix. I don't want to be rude, and maybe this was a one-time thing, but it bothered me how uninvolved he was. He handed Amy a baby with a full diaper and with puke on its clothes. Amy, Lisa, and I eventually finished setting everything up. The house was clean, the food was ready, and Lisa looked ready to host a big gathering. We all paid zero attention to Paul. When my family arrived, I thought everything was going well. I avoided Paul and enjoyed speaking to my family. After we had sat down to eat, Paul drunkenly approached me, thanking me for helping Lisa. I did not want to be around him for long and moved out of his way. He was very persistent. I was ignoring him, but then he started talking about Amy. He would tell me to protect Amy like a real man, or he'd say, "You've got a great woman by your side." You know what? Whatever. It was slightly odd and mildly uncomfortable, but I was able to brush it away. Amy was trying to sober him up a little bit before it was time to cut the cake, so she was practicing a lot of selective hearing. We tried to get him to stop talking and drink some water. However, he had a lot to say about Lisa. He was complaining about how pregnancy ruined Lisa's body, and how a baby ruined his life. Amy and I kept looking at each other awkwardly, and we were soon going to leave him be. We didn't leave the conversation soon enough. He started complaining to me about his love life with Lisa, or lack thereof, and commenting on how desperately he wanted to sleep with someone fit like Amy. This made both of us extremely uncomfortable. Amy left, quickly apologizing to Lisa. I told him that he was a disgusting, gross man who needs some effing help. Then I left. Apparently this made him super upset, and he started wailing at the party. Paul told everyone that the reason he was crying was because of what I said to him. He got over it quickly, but a few people told me I was wrong to shame a father on his child's birthday. I could have probably left without making a statement. Am I the jerk? Did you actually think you were the jerk? Because it feels like you know you're not the jerk. It's always uncomfortable to speak ill of a family member, but this guy needed to be put in his place. How is it wrong to shame a father on his child's birthday, but it's okay to body shame the mother and complain about how little she does for you in bed? Maybe he isn't like this when he isn't drinking, but who gets sloshed at a birthday party for a 1-year-old baby? It's not like you were at a kegger. It's also insane that Paul thinks this baby ruined his life. He sits around drinking beer and watching Netflix. That hardly sounds like a terrible life. Maybe he'd be more fulfilled if he got off his rear and did something, like helping his wife set up a birthday party. But even if all the rest of it was justified, which it's not, he crossed way over the line when he made a pass at his own brother's girlfriend. What's the point of hitting on anybody at all when you're making yourself out to be a slob, and letting the baby sit around in its own filth? This man isn't husband material or father material. Lisa's basically a single mother at this point, yet she still has to put up with this obnoxious man who lives in her house and watches her TV. Maybe it's time she thought about leaving him. But that's not really the question. Did OP take things further than necessary by making his brother cry in front of the whole party? Leave us a comment and let us know what you would have done. Den's sister-in-law blames everybody but herself for not getting her degree. My brother Adam met Michelle, a single mom of Latin origins, about a year ago. They recently got engaged. We only met her a few times, but he brought her and her son over for dinner on Sunday. To be quite honest, the family and I didn't know much about her. So after dinner, we started talking to her about her personal life. She told us she only has a high school education. She said she always wanted to go to college and obtain a degree, but she said that it was so hard to do. I found that a bit cliché, especially after she started complaining about lack of opportunities and resources. I told her that I disagreed because colleges give all kinds of opportunities and scholarships, and that the real reason she couldn't go to college was because of the fact that she was a mom and had to raise a kid. She stared at me silently, looking offended. Then she asked if I was implying that her decision to be a mom ruined her opportunities. I told her only she could answer that question once she takes a look at her life to see if she's really happy where she is versus where she could have been without the whole struggling mom thing. She got upset and told me that she's happy with her life and her job at the salon. Then she said that she did not appreciate how judgmental and condescending I was towards her and her child. Adam heard the commotion and asked what was going on. She told him, and he decided it was time to leave. She couldn't even wait or say goodbye. She took her son and went to wait in the car. Adam chewed me out, saying it was none of my business how she's living her life. But I explained that I was stating an opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. Mom sided with them, saying I was out of line, rude, and ridiculous. But my younger sister said that Michelle was being too sensitive, and she should get over herself already. Adam left, and then my mom called him in the evening. The next day, they came into my room to yell at me, saying I made Michelle cry with what I said. Now my mom wants me to apologize, but I'm not sure whether I was out of line here. Yes, you were definitely out of line. To be fair, Michelle was being a bit too sensitive. You can't complain about not having a degree, then take offense at the idea that you aren't perfectly happy with your life. If everything is perfect, then why are you complaining? That said, this OP isn't exactly the brightest candle. First of all, much like the Tiger Mom story, this person with strong views on education spells like somebody who hasn't received one. Second, plenty of people get grants and scholarships, yet still wind up in crippling debt from student loans. So it's not quite fair to suggest that Michelle was wrong to complain about lack of resources. Third, this OP is 24 years old. If she knows so much about education and success, then why does it sound like she still lives with her mother? Is it because of a lack of resources and jobs? Because that argument is no less cliché than Michelle's. If you're going to call someone a cliché, you might want to take a look at your own life first, because right now it doesn't sound like anything worth bragging about. In reality, having a child probably did affect this woman's chances of getting a degree when she was younger. She shouldn't take that so personally. It's a fact of life, and it's only a negative one if you treat it that way. But OP has a lot to learn about how to talk to people. It's a basic life skill they apparently don't teach at whatever uppity school she went to. Click on one of the videos you see on the screen now, or a Karen will sue you.